Hey, this is Jared, and really quickly, I just wanted to talk about Star Wars. So this week was the 40th anniversary celebration, and my timelines were variously filled up with a bunch of news and stuff coming out about Star Wars, and it got me thinking about the rejuvenation of the extended universe and all of the new films and shows and video games and books and everything that are coming out. And I wanted to talk about kind of the hurdle that I see for them to overcome in terms of making all of those things effective. And of course, this is one guy's opinion, and their films are going to make $1 billion regardless of what's in them. But you know, just as a fan, as somebody who has liked Star Wars since I was a kid, really making sure that those stories are effective, to me, the hurdle is going to be backstory. Now, and I want to frame this conversation using the way that Stephen King talks about backstory in his book On Writing. It's a 10th anniversary or 20th anniversary, something edition or something. But anyway, so the things that Stephen King says about backstory in this book, he says a couple of things. Number one is, there are two things true about backstory. One is that we all have a history, and two is most of it's not very interesting. And the other thing that he says about backstory is that the key word in backstory is back. It belongs as far in the back of the narrative as possible. It serves its purpose in terms of getting the ball rolling or giving, you know, narrative structure to a story, but doesn't have to consume the story itself. And when I think of that, I immediately think of Rogue One. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go into a bunch of detail about what I did or didn't like about Rogue One. Rogue One was fine, but I think it's illustrative of this point, which is that is a whole movie, hundreds of millions of dollars and whatever, a whole movie made to give context to a single line of dialogue in Star Wars Episode 4. So right at the beginning of that movie, Darth Vader comes on board the Tantive 4 and he tells the people on board, "Several transmissions were beamed aboard your ship by rebel spies. I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you." That's it. And that gets the whole ball rolling. It gives us context around why they're on that ship, what the narrative thrust of the story is, and it kind of gets us going. And for 40 years, that was good enough. For 40 years, that line of dialogue served as all the backstory we needed for that. And then comes along, Rogue One, where again we spend all that money to make that film, and it is in a lot of ways not the film that I was expecting. Certainly not where my brain went. And I think that is, when I thought of spies stealing plans, I didn't think of a galactic space battle and walkers and that whole shtick going down. So I think that's the crux of kind of what I'm talking about here, which is, you have all the fan speculation and the fan theories and all of that stuff, all of that, the things that give energy to any any property, any set of stories, right? There was the speculation around Harry Potter. Was Dumbledore gay? There's, speculation in Star Wars around, how did Han and Chewbacca meet? And what is Boba Fett's backstory and whatever. But that's exactly what makes that interesting, is that we don't know. And what fuels that speculation is the mystery and the fans getting to bounce ideas off of each other and whatnot. And so my fear is that if they go into every detail, if they get so granular in all of the Star Wars stories and everything, that there isn't that room for speculation, or even if, in some cases, if the fan speculation is more interesting than what you come up with in your movie, what does that do for your franchise? Rich Evans from Red Letter Media, I think, put this perhaps most succinctly on one of their videos, where he says the reason that Boba Fett is interesting is because he's mysterious, because you don't know anything about him. And if you make the movie of his backstory, particularly if you make some movie where he is supposed to be the protagonist and then we're supposed to hate him later on some other movie in Return of the Jedi and whatever the hell is going on, it's confusing and it's troubling, and it's the big hurdle. It's what I'm talking about, like that thinking of the way that you treat backstory and where you let something lie and don't worry about it too much. That's really the trick in storytelling, and I think that's the hurdle that they have to overcome in the Star Wars franchise. Thanks for watching.